Hello everybody and welcome back to another Mystery Box Function Challenge. In this purple box we've got some mystery math and your challenge is to determine what that math is. You can pause this video, click on the link in the description, and then put in as many numbers as you like at the top and see how they come out transformed at the bottom. Use this information to figure out what's inside the purple box. Then come on back, listen to the rest of the video, and see if you get what I get. All right, let's get us going on this one today. I'm going to put in a 0. 0 gives me 0. Let's try a 1. Okay, 1 gives me, well, close to -1. Let's try a -1. That gets me close to +1. So what could this be? I mean, this could be a line. Those look like they're on a line, but it could be maybe a cubic function. Could be an absolute value function. Let's try some more points. I'm gonna do a 3. Oh, what about a -3? Okay. I think, now I have a hunch about this, I think this may be a trigonometric function because it seems to go up and then down and then up. If we continue on here, a couple more points. There's a 4, there's a 5. Yeah, looks like we're getting those periodic curves. Let's try a value like pi, or a close approximation of pi. So I'm going to put in 3.1415. What do we get for that? And that's very, very close to 0. Okay, so that makes sense because those values of pi and pi over 2 and 2 pi, those are either going to be 0 or 1 with these periodic functions. So I'm going to draw a picture of the unit circled so we can start thinking about this. So these functions that I'm thinking about, this is probably sine or cosine. What we're doing is we're taking an angle, and this angle measure is what we're putting in for x. So at 0, it starts here. At 0, the endpoint is right there where that angle reaches the circle, and that is the point 1, 0. And the cosine is your x value, and the sine is your y value of that endpoint. And as it sweeps around, those values change between, from 0, the sine would go up to 1 here, and then down to 0 again, then down to -1, and then back up. And that's how you get that periodic waveform going there. So question to answer first is this sine or cosine? And it looks like at 0, we get 0. That's what sine would be. At 0, cosine would be 1. Looks like our maximum values and minimum values are close to 1 and -1. Yeah, and here's 6. If we get something closer to 2 pi here, let's say 6.28, we'll put that in. 6.28. That should be really close to 1. Oops, sorry, really close to 0. Okay. Yes. All right. So 2 pi is back to 0, and that makes sense with sine as well. But something is strange about this because it starts at 0 and it ends at 0, just like sine does, but it goes down to begin with instead of going up, and sine goes up. So the sine of pi over 2 is going to be 1, but here we've got something really close to -1 at that close to pi over 2. So it's as if the sign has been flipped upside down. So I'm going to propose that maybe f of x is the negative sine of x. That would work out with 0 and 2 pi. How about pi over 2? Pi over 2 is close to 1.5, and I think that's close enough for us. So let's put in 1.5 and see what we get. And if this was just the sine, it would give us a +1. It gives us really close to a -1. So I think that we're taking the negative value of sine. Now, you could also write this as the cosine. Because the sine and the cosine really have the same shape. So if you were to move the cosine function over a little bit, you see how the cosine starts high and then goes down. So just like this one starts Well, this one starts at 0 and goes down. If you wanted it to go down first, you just take the cosine and move it over. And I think that would be, if I'm not mistaken, let's try experimenting with this, because really there's more than one answer for this one. This should be the cosine of x plus 1, maybe? So what would that do? If we put in, or x plus 1, x plus pi over 2, I think, is how it would be. So cosine of x plus pi over 2. So if we put in, for example, 0 for the cosine, and we added pi over 2 to it, it would be up here at pi over 2, and the cosine of that would be 0, which is where we start. And if we put in pi over 2, that would be pi, and so the cosine should be -1. And that's where we're at pi over 2. All right, so either one of these works. These are actually the same function, and I think we've got it. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal. And here it's written as the negative sine of x, but this is really the same thing. Go ahead and plug this into a graphing program if you don't believe me and see that they're the same thing. Let's go ahead and graph this one. Yeah, lovely waveform. Just happens to start at 0 and go down instead of going up. So this is the negative sine of x, or cosine of x plus pi over 2. Well, how did it go for you? I think that was an extremely difficult one. If you're used to the trigonometric functions, maybe you were able to sort that out. If you even were in the neighborhood of trig, you give yourself a pat on the back. Thanks, everybody.